Good morning. You're listening to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance. And now, sharing his knowledge, here's your host, Matt Libby.
All right, welcome back to Insurance Matchmaking, and boy, I've got some big news to share. We've got a couple new names for you to learn and a couple new voices if you call into the office. A couple weeks ago, had Amy, who started as a receptionist. She's right now just kind of working part-time, but as we get closer to open enrollment, she'll be working full-time and get going there. And then... And I'll do a little plug in here for Express Employment. I went to them to say, hey, I need some help, and they sent me Amy's resume and said, yep, sounds like she'll work out. We had a phone conversation, which lasted about 45 minutes because both of us are chatty. So I was like, well, we'll get along. I get that. But so anyway, I think she came in the next day, and we're like, yeah, can you start on Monday sort of thing. And so she started working. And as I'm recording this, she's over in Biltmore. Over in Nashville. She had a trip she had planned before she started, so of course I said, yes, don't worry about it. I've been doing without, so it'll be okay if you're gone for a couple days. And the ironic thing is, talking about Express Employment, because that's how I've hired a few of my assistants in the past, and that's where kind of the irony is, because with me this morning is Elijah Ridley. That's the other name I want you all to remember. I was Elijah's first client when he was with Express Employment. He helped me hire my first assistant, and maybe I'll kind of let him share a little bit of that story. But he has now joined me as an agent, so we're working together again. We did some time in the Roane County Chamber of Commerce. We were on the Chamber Ambassador Board together and attended all the ribbon cuttings and all that kind of stuff. But so anyway, Elijah Ridley is a new agent with Matt Libby Insurance. And Elijah, tell them a little bit about yourself. I know I caught you a little off guard, but go ahead.
Nice to meet everybody. Yeah, my name is Elijah Ridley. I have a beautiful wife. In September, we'll be married 10 years, which is close to the amount of time that I've known Matt.
Yeah.
I also have 3 daughters, a 4-year-old and twin 2-year-olds. So I don't have as much hair as I used to, but but they keep me on my toes, and I wouldn't trade them for anything.
Yeah, he's just trying to look closer to being my age, because we were talking about it and realized it's like I'm not just old enough to be his father. I'm older than his father by about 10 years. So like I said, we did a lot of stuff together and looking forward to doing some more stuff when it comes to insurance. And Elijah, kind of share a little bit, because you've done a couple things. You didn't stay forever with Express, but you've done a couple things since then. And then it was funny. I didn't get him into the insurance business. I found out he was in the insurance business. I was like, hey, wait a minute. What are you doing? So was able to get him to come on board. And like I said, and he's just come on board. He started with me. We record on Wednesday. He started Monday with me. So we're just getting going.
Yeah. So I've been in sales for about 15 years now, and I've been a sales manager for 8 years. I've worked for some pretty large companies, Solar Titan out of Knoxville, Tennessee. I was their sales manager for 5 states. I covered Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. And then when they sold to a company in Dallas, I moved to Mountain Barn Builders, and I was there for a while, and I was the sales manager for 16 locations. And then the unexpected happened, something that people my age, I'm 33, something that we never expect to happen. My older brother, who was 32 at the time, got diagnosed with leukemia. And within a month, he passed away here at Cookeville Regional. So from that point, I thought, he didn't have any coverage. And so his family had bills piling up. And, when you're going through the worst moments of your life, Matt, one of the things you shouldn't have to do is worry about how the bills are going to get paid. And so when I started looking into everything, I realized that I had a passion for making sure that people were protected and that they had everything they need taken care of, so that way they could truly focus on getting healthy rather than worrying about how they're going to afford the treatments. And so that's what brought me into the insurance world.
And so it was just recently, and it's actually kind of funny. Like I said, he had put a post on Facebook, and I'm looking at it, wait a minute. You're doing insurance and you didn't talk to me about it. And after we talked a little bit, I was, I think he kind of saw that, maybe the opportunity is a little better here than what I got recruited into, which that kind of happens, and having someone to work with, having that mentorship and having that, kind of a base to start from versus he was doing kind of like I did when I started with Aflac. Okay, you got to go out, as we say, knock on doors, call on businesses, and see if you can schedule an appointment to sit down with that business owner. And he wasn't doing Aflac, he was doing, but something kind of similar, and just seeing, if possibly get together with that company's employees and set up appointments to be able to write business with them and help them protect themselves and protect their families, protect their paychecks. So that was kind of what his Facebook post was, and I was like, well, I do that kind of stuff too. I don't do just health insurance. I don't do just Medicare. But I think I've got him maybe kind of excited now about thinking about the Medicare side of things.
Absolutely. What really drew me to working for Matt Libby Insurance was the fact that it wasn't just one product offering. It was able to completely service a client, being able to take care of their healthcare needs, their vision, dental, their supplemental, making sure that your cost of healthcare doesn't exceed a certain amount each year. And so being able to work with Matt on these projects and matchmaking the insurance for the client is the most important thing, and being able to round out their coverage and make sure that these rising costs of healthcare doesn't have to rise for you.
Right. And actually, I want to kind of hook on that. I was listening to a presentation yesterday. I had to drive to Nashville for a meeting, and of course, I try to. Sometimes I just listen to music, because sometimes I can put on some podcasts or something like that and kind of take advantage of that windshield time. But somebody was talking about, and I don't know if this, what do they say? 75% of statistics are made up at the time or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, who knows? But, and actually it did make sense of it, was talking about, with Medicare supplements and pitching a cancer plan with the Medicare supplement. And, of course, usually the question is kind of like, well, why do I need that? Isn't my insurance going to cover that? And it does. But and this is a number that surprised me. I didn't research it, so take it for how I took it as I presented is 53% of expenses that arise due to a cancer diagnosis are non-medical. And I've talked about that a few times before of, that, you do chemo. And I just heard a story, somebody I know, somebody from church that one of their family members or a friend, it was actually a brother of someone, had to do chemo. And he just had his second go-around, and both of those bouts of chemotherapy landed him in the hospital. So it's like, and the reason I bring that up, and I'm not trying to harp on someone's suffering, but when you're in the hospital, and depending what age you are, if you're still working age, you're not working during that time. But even so, if someone retired on Medicare has a Medicare, yes, all that's hospitalization, everything, all that's can be covered by your insurance. That's great. Who's mowing your yard? When you get out of the hospital and go home and needs help around the house, or you have an adult child who's, taking time off from work to take care, to help you, maybe you want to kind of help compensate them because they're not able to work. So there are different expenses come up, and the one that's come up lately, and I've said this a couple times on here, is if you have pets. Who's taking care of your pets? Are you going to put them in boarding because you're going to be in the hospital for a while, or you're going to pay somebody to come by and feed them? It's not always, you can't always just get a friend or neighbor who's just going to stop by. Sometimes you have to pay someone to do that, or house sitting, whatever. There's a lot of expense, and that doesn't even scratch the surface of. I think Elijah and I were talking about this the other day, and it's how did you say it about the if you get cancer, what are you going to do? For care?
Yeah, when you're going through the worst part of your life, do you want to go to what's most convenient, or do you want the best care?
Right. I think it was like you got to go to what's closest or what's best, and so travel can be involved. So
do you want to have to pay for plane tickets?
Right.
Certain plans can help cover even mileage. And what I really like about it is also when you're going through something like this, you don't want to go through it alone. And so most of these policies will actually pay for somebody to go with you.
Right.
And so, you're going through a tough time. And one of the things, cancer is no respecter of person, Matt.
Right.
My brother, he was 32. I had a friend pass away from testicular cancer. He was only 28.
Yeah.
I have a friend going through a brain tumor right now. He's in his 30s. So, guys, it's not just, Gen X. It's not just baby boomers. It's millennials, Gen Zs. They're going through it as well. And also, one of the things that's important to realize is, St. Jude's is really big, and it affects children. So if you're a parent, you don't want to think about it. Everybody thinks they're invincible.
Yeah.
But cancer's no respecter of person. And so it's better to have a plan in place than to be caught off guard.
Right. And the thing is, just the people that Elijah just mentioned, we can't help them. It's too late. It's I've heard, somebody told me, because I'll get people call me, and it's like, I get a call, they ask me, do you do dental insurance? I probably don't even want to talk to them. Because the reason they're calling me about dental insurance is because they've got rotten teeth and they need them pulled, or and the dental insurance is not going to pay for that. You can buy the dental insurance, you're still going to pay a lot for whatever's having done. I don't need it until you need it. Anyway, I mentioned it to somebody. I think it was a P&C agent, as we call them, the property and casualty. That the State Farms, the Allstates, the home and auto people. They it's too late to buy fire insurance when you smell smoke. You can't get cancer insurance when after you've been diagnosed with cancer. You can't buy life insurance after you die. And you can't buy life. Like I say, you can buy life insurance after you're sick, some of them, but you're going to pay a lot more for it. And if whatever made you sick takes you before 2 or 3 years, that life insurance is just going to refund your premium. Now, I'll pitch that the other way, too, of it's never too late to buy it. You're not throwing your money away. We have what we call the final expense life insurance plans. And if you are in that situation, they'll refund your premium plus interest. So your loved one still gets that money back. So it's the money's not gone, because it's not just money you spent and it's gone. But hopefully you can get it before you need it. And then that way, when you do pass, it pays right away. And a lot of your funeral homes can go ahead and do those claims. It's like if you get the policy, you take the policy to the funeral home. Because if you've ever known anybody who's like, they do the go F me, as I call it. And because they need a down payment for the funeral home because they don't have it. Those policies aren't that expensive. Just a basic final expense plan. Most people can get some, at least $10,000 worth of coverage, maybe more, for $50 a month. And as I said, that money, you're not throwing it away. And people, well, I could just save it. Yeah, you can just save it, but what if you need it 6 months from now? You didn't save $10,000 in 6 months. The other thing is, I used to tell people, you can, but you won't. Because if you could save the money to have money to cover your funeral, you would have already done that. And I know that's kind of cold, that's kind of crass, but that's kind of where I'm at. All right, we're actually up on the break, Elijah. I told you to be quick.
Join Habitat Restore at their pop-up donation event every second Saturday of each month at First National Bank in Sparta. The Habitat team will be there ready to go to receive your donations. So don't miss an opportunity to declutter and make a difference at First National Bank in Sparta with the Habitat Restore pop-up donation event every second Saturday of the month.
Hi, this is James Green, your local Twin Lakes security sales consultant. Security protection isn't just about your home, it's about your furry friends too. Who's a good boy? That's why for the month of September, Twin Lakes Security is partnering with Putnam County Animal Shelter to help our little friends find a home while protecting yours. Contact us today for a no-obligation consultation at 931-528-2005 or visit twinlakes.net.
Twin Lakes Security, TN-CERT C-0026.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby Insurance.
All right, and we are back. I have my guest, Elijah Ridley, and, well, he's a guest on the show, but he's not really a guest. He's a new agent, if you missed the first half of the show. Elijah and I go way back. I was actually his first client when he started, and he was still just a salesperson. He took over that branch of Express Employment, and worked there for a few years, and we talked about in the break. He kind of went and did some other things since then. Kind of did like I've done. Sometimes you land someplace and it works great for a while, and then it's time to move on. So, and then he got an insurance business, so I said, you need to come work with me. So that's what we're doing. And so we're just going to kick it off right here, get him on the radio with me. But I was talking about there just before the break of, if you could save the money for your funeral, you would do that. Unfortunately, most people don't. And so it makes sense to go ahead and get some kind of life insurance in place. And so that's something we can help you with there. A couple of things I wanted to touch on before I forget. Our sister station, the Country Giant, is running a contest for a going on a cruise. You maybe, if you listen to Country Giant at all, you maybe heard it advertised. One of the things they're doing with that, and I should have talked about this last week and forgot, is my office is one of the locations. I think they're calling them cruise stops. But anyway, we've got a little poster, and it has a QR code on it. And you go in, and you scan that QR code, and you get an entry into the contest for that cruise. And there's other locations. I know Biltwell Bank is one of them. I think it's all their local branches. You can do it. Landry's in Monterey. And like I said, I can't remember all the locations, but you can go on to Country Giant and find it. Or, come by our place. We've only got a few more days. The 3rd of September is the last day to enter that, which I think that's going to be Wednesday. Monday is Labor Day on the 1st. But and you can come by my office. We're by the Domino's there on South Jefferson if you haven't been by there. But when I leave the office, I put the poster up on the door so you could walk up, even if we're not there, you can scan it. So, make sure you enter that contest. The other thing I wanted to touch on before I forget, because I've had 2 phone calls, or not 2 phone calls, 2 contacts, because one was a phone call, one was an email, of the government does such a great job of keeping you informed on things. And one of the things that they put out, the marketplace is sending out to people who have plans and telling them, well, let me tell you what the calls are. I just got this message from the marketplace, and they said that on December 31st, the subsidies are ending. And so they're in a panic because they're thinking, how am I going to be able to afford my health insurance? The subsidies aren't ending. The expanded subsidies are ending. And I've talked about a few times here on the show, just to kind of reiterate on that, is there is a cliff when it comes to the subsidies because you have to make 10% of poverty level income, and I say make or earn, but Social Security disability payments, which aren't taxable, are considered income for figuring that out. So you have to be, and right now that 100% is somewhere, I can say close to $16,000, $15,500, $16,000 for one individual, and you're eligible for a tax credit up to 400% of the poverty level. So if you times that 16,000, again, for a single person, you time that 16,000 by 4, it's what, 64 something there. Am I doing my math right? 2 times 16 is 32. So, 64. Yeah. So about 64,000. And of course, younger ages, it kind of fluctuates, that it's not that high. But what they did during the Biden administration was they put in a computation of, you have this benchmark plan, and you should not have to pay more than 8.8% of your income to get that plan. So now we've got people that up to maybe 500 or 550% of the poverty line qualified for a tax credit. So that's who's going to affect it. So those of you that are worried about losing your tax credit because and you're paying a 0 premium for your health plan out, you're probably safe. It's not the lower income that it's going to hit. It's the higher income that finally qualified. I had a lot of people like that, and that's why I've talked about that I've added MediShare to my offerings, because when that would exempt you from the tax penalty for not having insurance, that exempts you from it. But it also counts as qualified health plan. But there are some things there that you may be paying a little bit more for your health care, but you've got that coverage again for the catastrophic. And they don't turn you down for pre-existing conditions. But if you have a lot of health conditions, that might not be a good fit for you. But they're not going to turn you down for it. The only 2 things they're going to turn you down for is if you use tobacco or you can't sign the attestation that you are a Christian. I mean, it's pretty simple. Some people may think that's discrimination, but it's like that's how that program's set up, and it is legal. It is legal for them to do that. It's not. They're not discriminating. It's just you have to be a part of the. You got to be a part of the club. You got to be part of the family of Christ to be available. And the fact that I'm on a Christian radio station now, I feel a little freer to be able to say that. So I have that. In other good news, I don't think I had announced this yet. Maybe, I don't know if I knew last week or not, or knew it was coming. The 3-year short-term plans are back. And maybe you may not know what I'm talking about there, but short-term plans, the great news on those, you can get one of those plans for probably half the cost of what it would cost to get an unsubsidized plan through the Affordable Care Act. But they are health underwritten. So if you have pre-existing conditions, they're not going to work for you. They'll take you if you smoke, but you're going to pay more. But for the longest time, you could get a 1-year short term, and then you had to reapply again in a year. Well, then we came up with 3-year plans that you could get that plan and get it to go for 3 years. And so it would be 3 plans kind of cobbled together, but in year 2 and year 3, you didn't have to go through the health screening again. So even if something happened in your health, you could still keep those plans and not be turned down for health reasons. Now, at the end of 3 years, then if you have that pre-existing condition, you're not going to be able to renew it. One of the things the Biden administration did on that, because they want to push everybody to the ACA plans, was they said, nope, you can't do that. You can get a 3-month plan, and you can extend that 3-month plan for 1 month and make it a 4-month plan. But at the end of that plan, you have to get a new plan, and it can't be with the same company. So you couldn't just get that 4-month plan and keep rolling it over and over again. And the problem with those are your deductible starts over. Well, it's two things against that. One, maybe you'd paid some things towards your deductible. You start over with a new deductible. The other thing is, depending on what you pay, what health care you got in that 4 months, that could be a pre-existing condition that would preclude you from getting that plan for another 4 months. The beauty of these 3-year plans is you're not locked in. You can cancel it the next month, and no penalties, no early withdrawal penalty, no early cancellation penalties. The 3 years protects you that you can keep the plan. They're not going to cut you off because you've had too many claims or whatever. Once you sign it, they have to keep you for that 3 years as long as you continue to pay your premium. So it's a great deal. It doesn't lock you. You're not committed to the 3 years. And it's worked great for those, especially if you're 62, 63. You just need something to get you to Medicare because you can't afford a $1,600 a month health plan. You can get something for $300, $400, $500, and now you got health insurance. So those are some things, to come by and see us about.
Yeah, and speaking of exclusions, Matt, there's only 2 times people think about insurance. Once is when they're sitting down with us, and the other time is, of course, when something happens. Yeah. And in our business, that's called too late.
Right.
So I like to tell people, you're never going to be healthier than you are today.
Exactly.
As we age and get older, things come up. It's part of life. It's part of aging. But you're never going to be healthier than you are today. And so it's very important that for Matt and I, we want to help people. Our problem is getting to people before something happens and before there's an exclusion.
Yeah. Occasionally I tell a story. I have a client. I'll try to do as they say, the Reader's Digest condensed version. But and a lot of times I would pitch kind of 2 plans that go with the Medicare Advantage. One of them we call the HIP, the Hospital Indemnity Plan, that will reimburse, around $300 per day stay in the hospital plus surgeries and things like that. So those big copays, so you don't have to worry about that maximum out of pocket on that plan. And then the other is the cancer coverage. And with Medicare Advantage plans, and pretty much I don't think I've seen one that strays from this, is cancer treatments is a 20% co-insurance until you hit that maximum out of pocket. So no deductible involved. It's just like you got to go get chemo, you got to pay 20% of the bill. And you're going to pay that 20% until you hit that bill. And you have plans. Generally, most of the plans that I work with people on are usually $4,000 to $5,000 max out of pocket, but they can be all the way up to $9,500. So that cancer plan, so generally I would sell plans usually about $20,000 because because, again, the max out-of-pocket could be $9,000, especially if it's a PPO and you go out of network. They're usually $10,000 to $12,000, even if you had a $4,000 max, the out-of-network stuff. And, again, with cancer, what happens? People go out of town. Maybe they go somewhere that's not in network, but the insurance will still pay part of it, but you have a much higher max out-of-pocket. And as I say, I don't know anybody that got diagnosed with cancer in January and all their treatments are done by December. So if you get cancer, and especially if it's like this time of year, you'll hit that max out-of-pocket. January's not that far off, and you're going to start all over again.
Absolutely.
So that's what's nice about that cancer plan, that lump sum, whether it's even as low as $5,000. Have something that at least cover 1 year of your max out-of-pocket. Generally, $10,000 usually runs about $1 a day. So and depending on your age, if you're younger, you can get more for, if you're in your 30s, you can definitely double what I'm offering to people in their 60s. But now you don't have to worry about that max out-of-pocket because if you get cancer, it's going to pay. And I said, I was going to tell the story. I had a client decided to get $30,000. He's still alive today, I'm proud to say, or happy to say. Good guy, picture of health. When I met him, I think he was 66. He had delayed his Medicare because he was still working a really good job, and I was probably maybe about 60 because I was still in Rockwood at the time. And he comes in and he gets the $30,000 cancer. Ended up he was on a trip in North Carolina, had an emergency appendectomy, and spent a week or so in the hospital. So he hit that max out of pocket, or the maximum on the co-pays, but he had the hospital indemnity plan, so he got the money back to cover the hospital. And here's again, guess what? They were out of town. Do you think his wife just came home while he was in the hospital and left him in North Carolina? No, she stayed in the hotel while they were there. So they had a bunch of bills, so that came in. And then he had the $30,000 for the cancer. And, of course, this was right at the beginning of COVID when he got diagnosed. So he couldn't get his surgery for the longest. And I think it wasn't that they couldn't get him in the hospital. It was they didn't want him in the hospital with all the COVID patients.
Right.
Because you have cancer, your immune system is shot. So I do have a client that they're very happy that they had that money to cover those maximum out of pocket and take care of that stuff, and they didn't have to worry about losing their retirement savings. So we're actually coming up on the end here. Just a reminder, as always, at Matt Libby Insurance, we can cover you from head to toe. It doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. If you'd like to be on the show, you can go to insurancematchmaking.com. There's also the links there for all my past shows are on YouTube. You can listen to them. Please when you go to listen one, please like and subscribe to my channel. That helps me get the word out a little bit more. And we will probably continue, so you'll probably get to hear from me and Elijah for 2 weekends here. But until next week, keep it tuned here on Grace 107.7, and we'll see you next week on Insurance Matchmaking.
You've been listening to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.